bring in our guests. We have two lovely ladies, Scarlette and Moloko. Is that correctly? Moloko? From Voluptuous Entertainment. We're going to bring them in. Let them you guys get I like the entry music.
Yes.
It's our whole job here.
I could do a little shimmy to that.
You see? You can do that.
Maybe you talk off camera, Laura,
So
like
Scarlette
Paul Schaefer.
and Moloko of Voluptuous Entertainment. And you are burlesque performers.
Yes, we are.
Define for us what that is. Do you want to take that one, or do you want me to take that one?
Go for it.
Okay, burlesque dancers. Well, we often get mistaken for strippers, so that's the first thing we have to clear out. While we do strip tease, it is not the same thing as going to a strip club and having some girl grind in your face. It's an art form. It's very elaborate costuming. There's a storyline usually involved. It's like taking a really sexy mini trip to the movies, where the girl ends up in really gorgeous undergarments at the end. So it's an experience. It's definitely not going to the strip club, that's for sure.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it's really fun.
And how long have you each been doing this?
I started the whole idea back in September, so not that long.
Okay.
No. And then how long?
I joined in September. I auditioned and very beginning.
Yeah.
Been here ever since.
Now you guys have a very particular niche for the type of burlesque that you do.
Yes,
We do.
We are BBW burlesque performers. As far as we can tell, there's only one other troupe in California that's doing what we do.
And as far as the United States concerned, the only other actual designated troupe is the Glamazons, and they aren't technically burlesque, they're more local singers.
Okay.
The ones that were on America's Who's Got Talent thing. So the Glamazons, they're all beautiful singers, but I don't think they actually do burlesque dancing, so I'm not sure if they're the same category. But yeah, there's only one other troupe in California, and then there's like 2 or 3 troupes kind of running around in Europe, and that's about it. So it's a new movement for plus size burlesque dance.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. Now we've discussed here on this show before, because we had in a couple of weeks ago, we had April Flores, who's a BBW porn star.
She's very sweet.
She is very sweet. She's adorable.
Adorable.
And so we discussed when she was here also, and so who fits in that range?
Well, it depends on what state you're in.
Okay.
I'm originally from the East Coast. I was born in Florida, and there I am considered what's called a plumper. So I'm on the low end of the spectrum. I am considered the smallest, actually since we're the same size, we are considered the smallest you can be as a BBW on the East Coast. California, we are probably the high end of that, because plus size starts here at size 10. So in California, plus size starts.
Trying to make people super skinny here.
Well, you know, it's the culture here.
Yeah.
The modeling, the movie stars and everything. Everything starts, you know, at negative, you know, size 4, and then kind of moves up. So it's sizing skewed.
This is why we can't find anything up there.
It's true. It's true, because there isn't a mainstay for
Can't
what sizes
possibly know
are.
what size you really are. Yeah.
No, there's no way to know. It's not like back in the day where every single company had, you know, one thing that they based everything off of, and then they just added 2 inches. Yeah, everywhere you went, you wore an 8, but it's not like that anymore. And for plus size, it's impossible to find clothes. You have to literally go to every single store and try on everything to figure out what size you are. And so long process. And our stuff is always 20% more expensive because of that extra half yard that they have to use.
Because that's a lot of.
So in California, to answer your question, it starts at size 10.
Okay.
East Coast, it more starts in the size 18 range.
Okay.
So it just depends on where you are and who the people are around you. But here, our troupe starts technically at a size 10, but we usually don't hire anybody that's at a size 10 because we rehearse so often that we lose weight as we go. So it's actually really hard to keep the BBW burlesque troupe BBW because we rehearse 3 times.
Fit BBW.
We are very fit. We are very strong. We can flex and there's a muscle there. So you know, the skin moves. It's nice. So we rarely hire the size 10s because they usually lose so much weight that they disqualify themselves for being involved, which is unfortunate. But when you're trying to maintain a niche, you have to kind of maintain it. So
Absolutely.
the best you can, at least. But if we were on the East Coast, it would probably start at a size 16 reasonably, and then kind of move up from there. But it's difficult to find plus size dancers that are above a size 24 that are comfortable enough with their body to do it. And not as a physicality, but just being comfortable with doing it.
Just feeling sexy.
Yeah, being able to take something off and not be self-conscious about what the audience is going to say, think, or do in reaction to what you're doing.
Okay. And why are you doing this?
Why?
Sorry.
Okay, here it is.
That's the big question.
That is the big question. No, it's actually the easy question. I've been doing plus size modeling for years. Lingerie, corsets, fetish wear, everything I could really get my hands on because the market is quite competitive when it comes to modeling in the plus size world. So I always wanted to be on top of that. And we hit, me and a couple other models hit kind of a dry spell. Last year, between January and June-ish. I don't know why, just the market kind of went down and they were only using agency people and freelancers kind of got the shaft. So
that happened in a lot of different...
A lot of fields. So we ended up, particularly me, on Craigslist looking for anything, you know, going into the talent section and saying, typing in keywords, plus size, BBW, size 12, size 14, size 18. For me, it's usually 18 or 20 because I've been about that size for a long time. And then just see what pops up and hope that there's something. And so, let's see, July, I believe it was July or August last year, I was running on Craigslist looking for modeling, and I typed in plus size model or something like that. And an ad came up looking for BBW women for a BBW burlesque. It was called BBW burlesque. And I was like, I wonder. So I opened it up, and because there's no red flags when you see an entire ad in caps, I decided to read through it.
No reason that you should be concerned.
Right, and you know, the grammar was, of course, perfect, and no. All in caps, and looking for BBW burlesque dancers to do a topless review. So that was my first thing that didn't make sense to me because in my experience burlesque wasn't topless. And so I was like, well, maybe they just are saying topless when they mean pasties, because, you know, they're trying to communicate to an audience that doesn't understand pasties. So I gave it the benefit of the doubt. At the end of the ad it says $500 a show. And I was like, whoa, whoa, $500 a show? Count me in, are you serious? Okay, and so then it has a phone number and this guy's name. So I call the guy, I'm like, okay, I want to know about your auditions. And he's like, oh, okay, so you're interested, can you send me a picture? Okay, no problem, sent him a regular picture. And he's like, okay, so you need to have, you know, kind of like 3 minutes of you doing your thing. And I'm like, me doing my thing, like, what kind of thing do you want to see? Like, what kind of thing am I doing? And he's like, well, you know, just burlesque stuff. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'll be there. Where is it? Oh, it's at this park in LA. I'm like, you're auditioning for burlesque in a park.
Well, they're not auditioning the topless part of them.
Yeah, I was like,
I mean, it'd be cool, but...
All right, okay, at a park. That definitely makes a difference as to what my thing is when I'm performing it.
So,
yeah, definitely. You're going to sink into the ground.
Be in the ground.
Yes, and so I started doing research on burlesque and trying to develop something that I could do to impress this guy. And he, you know, was kind of kept in touch with me, and the audition location changed a couple times, and I was like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to do this. This sounds shady. You know, this guy has... I don't know, he talks a good game, but I can't really figure him out. I've never actually met the guy. And then it ends up being at someone's house in a garage, which I felt a whole lot better about. Because the garage is really safe.
Yeah.
So I show up to this location, and his assistant answers the door, and she's a plus-size Latina girl who's very sweet. I wouldn't say she was overly pretty, but very sweet, and you know, sat me down and said, "Oh, he'll be here soon," and I'm like, "Okay, no problem." An hour later, he still wasn't there, and and some other girls had showed up for this audition, and they're like, "Oh no, we already auditioned, we're already in." I'm like, "Oh, how many rehearsals have you had?" And she's like, "Today is our first rehearsal." And I'm like, "What time is it supposed to start?" She's like, "Oh, 30 minutes ago." I'm like, "No, my audition was supposed to be an hour ago." And so we all start talking about it, and they're like, "Yeah, well, he told us about this fantastic idea that he has, and it's so amazing and wonderful." And I'm like, "Okay." The guy finally shows up, and he's very skeezy.
Oh.
Very skeezy, and I was like, first off, I was pissed because it'd been 2 hours, and I was like, "Dude, I don't care if traffic it's Friday, you should understand that LA has horrid traffic, and you should have left early or called me because I have wasted my time." He's like, "Well, let me see you audition anyway." So I did a chair routine and a vocal routine because all of my background is in vocals, not in dance. So I tried to compensate what I was doing with my voice talent rather than my actual dance talent, which is nil at the time. So I did that, and at the end he was amazed and hired me immediately and said, "Can you stay for rehearsal?" And I said, "Okay, great." So I stayed, and I then proceeded to listen to this man ramble for 2 hours about how he wants to make this an amazing thing where these BBW performers are on stage topless, dancing around him while he sings karaoke on stage, and he's the, you know, comedian of this whole thing. And I'm like, "What? Karaoke? What?" Okay, well, what's your breakdown? Like, what songs are we performing to? Hotel California, very sexy song, very, very burlesque.
Yeah.
And then the next one was the Humpty Dance. Yeah.
Okay.
So at that point I was like, wow. And the other two girls were looking at me going, "Is he serious?" You know? So against my better judgment at the time, I was like, you know what? If it really does pay $500, so what? I can do my one routine, show up for this thing, make my $500, leave. You know, and they kind of were at the same place with me. And as we progressed for the next month, doing what he said was going to be 4 rehearsals and then the show. I'm like, wow, 4 rehearsals for the diet show? Okay. And there were only 3 of us, you know, and the other 2 girls were really great performers. One was an African-American girl who's absolutely gorgeous, and she was a hula hoop dancer. She could take off her clothes while hula hooping, like up and down her body.
That's
I was like,
skill.
yeah, this major skill. Like, she had some core work
Very
going
cool
on.
stuff.
It was
Serious.
amazing. And then the other girl did blow up balloons. Like, she did balloon animals.
Cute.
And she would like pop them off, you know. Like,
Oh, nice.
So it was cool. And as we kept working on things and dealing with this gentleman, I say loosely, we realized that it wasn't a situation that we wanted to be involved in. And right before we quit, he had told us that the show was going to take place at a strip club, which is the next worst thing you could say for a burlesque show, and that it didn't involve pasties. It really was a topless show. He didn't understand what burlesque was. He didn't know the definition, like how it balanced out. And then he said that for this $500 a show that we would be required to give lap dances to the patrons. So after that fantastic experience,
I'm surprised you didn't just go run screaming and find a whole other career at that point.
No, I was talking with the girls at the time, and we recruited some other girls at that point to make it a larger show so we wouldn't have to do so much work. And we all decided that we could easily put something on our own, because between, you know, the 5 of us that we had at that point, there was me, who just graduated with a business degree, somebody who was an audio engineer, someone who was a choreographer, and someone who was a costumer, and somebody with a directing. You know, they were a theater arts major.
Great.
So it was like the dream team.
Indeed.
Just happened to be there. So we quit his show, and his show flopped bad. We heard later. We didn't go, but it was really bad. And we started our own, and the debut was a month later in November 20th at the Yost, at the Yost Theater in Santa Ana, and with no advertising, no radio, no TV, no anything. We had about 120 people show up to that show.
Fantastic.
With just based on word of mouth, and since then it has just blown up like crazy. People just love us, and they're finding us on Facebook through friends of friends of friends, and we have how many now? 1,500, 1,600 likes, and we've only technically been around on Facebook since December. So,
that's great.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
it's doing really well. We took a really crappy situation and turned it around.
Wonderful.
So that's where our goal is, to keep moving on and making it even better than it once was, because every season that we have and every group of girls that we rotate through, because it's a high turnover business, because most people can't stay in burlesque for very long because it doesn't make a whole lot of money.
Right.
So as the turnover keeps turning and we get new people and new faces and new experiences, we learn so much from it, and we kind of push through and make up new rules as we go along. So it's been good.
That's wonderful.
The chat room has observed that this happened in a Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland movie, didn't it? Pretty much all of them.
Something like that. It seems very similar to one of those.